Partnered by Times Influence.
There can be no digital revolution without security. Till recently, security meant two guards standing in front of an office. But these days, security need to be people proficient in high technology. They need to understand how to secure complex computer systems from attacks. Today, we have a wonderful panel, and these people are going to share their thoughts on what is the future of cybersecurity. Today is the third part of our series, Technology in the Future of Work. It's hosted by SP Jain along with the Economic Times. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Senior Assistant Editor of the Economic Times, Mr. Vinod Mahanta. Vinod, over to you.
The entire tech-led, innovation-led transformation which is happening, it is happening around data, analytics, information processing, and in that security will play a paramount role. We have a great panel today. We have, as I said, the modern guards, we have consultants, we have company technology officers, we have entrepreneurs, we have the entire spectrum of people who can tell you what the lay of the land is and how it's going to change and where the opportunities lie.
So I think as we start this conversation, there's some merit to getting into the mind of the cyber criminal. And officer, my first question is to you. What I'd like to understand is, what are the tools they use? What are the vulnerabilities they target? And ultimately, what are they after?
The cyber world gives you some kind of anonymity, a sense of anonymity which empowers you. Irony is that vulnerabilities which were disclosed 20 years back, something as simple as an SQL injection, which is a simple line of code like, -1 is equal to 1 or something like that, it can give you access to huge infra. So misconfigured devices, vulnerabilities in the system, and nowadays, you don't need to join any course to learn hacking. Everything is available as nice YouTube videos, step-by-step instructions. But let me also tell you the flip side. One large corporate Reliance Jio data breach, supposed data breach happened, and we were knocking the doors of the criminal in remote Rajasthan within 24 hours. You think that you are anonymous, but you are not. And I assure that if anybody is on the other side of law, we'll reach you.
Well, students, by nature of where they are in life, the perception is that they're shielded from cybercrime. They're shielded from its consequences. So how in an academic setting can threat intelligence be taught?
You have to keep on learning, whether you are at a novice stage or even at a senior management stage. Unless you keep on updating yourself, you'll not be able to face the real world on a real-time basis. So the way that we handle this problem is that we do not give specific solutions, but then the principle behind the threat or the principle behind the attack is what we are trying to counter.
What we seem to be hearing is that while the volume of cyber attacks has grown, so has their sophistication.
Just because the times have changed and there is no violence or there is no obvious violence, that doesn't mean that we can just impose some regulations and expect that they will follow. So from that point, real understanding of the system, how it works, is very important. We have to have a system that will enable the best minds of the nation contributing to the security.
So as you hire and as you build out your cybersecurity practice, what are the qualities you look for in the students? How do you ensure that they've had interdisciplinary training and expertise in threat intelligence before entering the workforce?
CTI, Cyber Threat Intelligence, is the art and science of actually going on the open web, the dark net, the deep web, and finding out that critical information just before the attack, which can help the company be early warned. How do you get students to learn that? Many ways, but the most effective way is gamification. Okay, make them enter into CTFs, capture the flag contests, or Hall of Fames, where in a gamified way, you let students find out that missing link or an important information, an IP address, which could be attacked, or a customer username, credentials, or the diagram of networks, or anything which is critical to the company, and help students discover that in a maze.
And the people who are interviewing, they need to be knowledgeable to ask the right questions. And another thing which I think a lot of us tend to not realize is that there is an awareness which needs to be there across the organization. Cyber security is not an IT issue. It is a business issue. One silly mistake which one employee does can bring down the whole organization and create havoc.
Now, Altaf, do you agree with that school of thought that cybersecurity is no longer an IT issue? It has become a business issue. It needs to be infused in the corporate culture.
Definitely, yes. No one today is, secured from these kind of cyber attacks. So it is a taken, like it is a granted that you are going to be attacked. The question is, when will you be attacked? It is very important for this particular approach to start from top down. At the same time, we at Kaspersky Lab, we have seen a lot of attacks happening with, the secretaries of, the top management. So they are the weakest link today.
Well, Mukesh, given what Altaf has said, how does the everyday citizen protect themselves from the risk, from the threat of cyber attack? Do they need to incorporate certain changes in everyday user behavior? Give us some examples.
The problem with the people is they're buying smartphone and they feel they are smart. You should know about, you should search about, you should be concerned about the threats, the ongoing threats. There is no foolproof solution or there is no full-shot countermeasures available which can secure you for next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. You're using smartphone, so you have to take care of your security and you have to take care of your privacy. If you are concerned about your privacy, then you have to think at least 100 times before installing any application, because it asks your mic access, it asks your phone book, it asks your camera, it asks your memory card access. So you need to understand what does this mean. So if you want to enjoy the facility, forget about security and privacy. Actually, the most vulnerable software application in Windows operating system through which any computer system is being widely and easily attacked is Microsoft Office. So if you are using it, you can understand how secure you are.
Very tangible tips there, and I think it makes the point that we can all be victims of cybercrime. But then all of you are also uniquely positioned to help propel a cybersecurity revolution. And, Colonel, my next question is to you. Data shows that spend on cybersecurity is expected to exceed $100 billion as early as next year. Now, that's, of course, a staggering figure. What sort of career opportunities stem from that?
The situation is such that the awareness has become much more. So people are aware that, okay, these are the threats which exist in today's world, and people are ready to invest in safeguarding their own interests. And one of the investments is a cybersecurity expert who will get into organizations, and I expect even smaller organizations to put in this investment. And ultimately, this will lead to a much better job prospect and career growth for all people in this field.
And Burgess, would you agree with that? When you started your career, cybersecurity was arguably not even a field that was pursued actively.
Right. When we started, we had an IT security, and that's the genesis. Why do people say cyber is an IT security issue? Because people in IT may be most qualified to deal with that. The options open would be right from an ethical hacker to a certified network specialist to actually a certified CISO, right? The whole gamut is there. And today's laws and regulations are actually empowering cyber professions. So RBI has mandated that every bank should have a CISO. So has telecom. People will bank more or shop more with companies who are perceived to be more secure. And students like you and many in the industry have a great advantage that you're in a profession which is going to be ever shining for the next 10 to 15 years.
So, the point here is that people are looking for talent, best talent in hacking, both offensive and defensive. India, its third largest imports are defense. And now with Make in India, we'll be making, the defense industry is going to get a huge boost. And defense industry would be protected by, so defense would need protection by cybersecurity. And it is indeed a huge business opportunity.
And Nicola, I'd love to bring you in here. What progress can you credit this country with in the area of cybersecurity? What sort of transformations are most noteworthy to you?
When you talk about security, is always no news is a good news. It's a bit like a sickness. So if you don't know that you're sick, then you don't care. And what I have noticed is that India is being aware that there is a sickness of the security. I would compare it with Sweden, where there is a very big trust in the system, and this trust can be lost tomorrow. So there is a lot of contractors, experts working in the background, making sure that there is no bad news.
One of the most problematic aspects of cybersecurity has been described as the constantly evolving nature of the risk. The risk is reinventing itself quicker than we can keep pace with. And Altaf, I'd like to bring you in here. Do you consider that to be true? And if so, how do you tackle that in your day-to-day role?
Risks are actually evolving. Earlier, the bad guys would probably, just infect your machine with a message saying that, okay, you have today, you missed my birthday, so happy birthday, Joshi. There was a virus called Happy Birthday, Joshi, which had come up. So it was an announcement. Today, the bad guys, they lie in your computer without making any noise, and they are just trying to collect your data. So the risks are ever evolving, and it's going to change day in and day out.
Today's malware, as you mentioned, sophisticated APTs, okay, are attacking not just banks, but telcos, and more important, manufacturing companies. So what would be just a financial effect can result in a major impact, health and safety impact for a company, for a country, for a city.
Cybersecurity can be described in so many subcategories. And Officer, I'd like your take here. Everything from mobile security, application security, data security, network security, cloud security. So how does the student on the opposite side of this room determine where their specialty lies, where to take their talent, and how to build a career from it?
See, if you look at the nations which are doing very well in cybersecurity, all of the knowledge is coming from the academia. If you look at Tel Aviv University, I think most of the patents in cybersecurity come from there. So we need to see what is happening in the world, and our curriculum should be very agile to pick up what is immediately essential and also have a future outlook. Probably a lot of employment would be created in analytics. Analytics does not necessarily require mathematical or statistical skills. You may be a psychologist, right? So you may be helping with understanding behavioral analysis. So whatever your skill set is, it can be utilized in cybersecurity. There is enough room for everybody, and there is absolute lack of talent.
Well, building on what Officer has said, Colonel, my next question is to you. How can we emulate best practices from global counterparts abroad and implement them in our own cybersecurity practices at the curriculum level and beyond?
We are already building it into the curriculum to make sure that at least we impart that education. But then more important than just knowing about it is to implement it on the ground, that it has to be something which is driven top down. And that is, I think, the key message that we need to send across, whether it is through educational institutes, otherwise also, that unless there is a top-down approach, any kind of security system cannot be well established.
With respect to designing effective cybersecurity, how is it done at a hardware level? How is it done at a software level? And how is it done at the human-computer interface level that lies somewhere in between?
If you think of cybersecurity, majorly it depends on the configuration. Say, example, you are developing some software application. There's a team who is developing it, and simultaneously there should be a team who is testing it regularly. There should be regular attacks on the same, and the developer team, they should have a challenge that they have to patch all the threads. Then the attacker team should have a challenge that they have to anyhow breach into that particular software application. Now, integration of the same would bring up some better software application. Say you have a software application which contains a username and a password. And always you are concerned about my username and password should not be breached. So better to configure it with the hardware. There should be a hardware dependency. Security should be configured very well. That is important.
To add to what he mentioned, and we take this concept from the military, we actually encourage something called red team and blue team games, where the blue team keeps on doing its best to defend, and the red team does its best to attack. And sometimes the red team wins, sometimes the blue team wins, but overall the company wins.
Joydeep, could you have imagined these sort of corporate environments in which teams are pitted against each other to reach the common goal of improved cybersecurity?
We keep talking about digital first. I strongly believe that we should talk about security first in these days and times. And with the plethora of digital technologies which are coming in, everything being connected, the security landscape is becoming more and more complicated.
At the personal front, you can do at least one thing today. Promise that you'll do it. Enable two-factor authentication on your mail. It's very easy to do, it's free. It will make it immensely difficult for the hacker to get into your system.
And we had tried to put in a slightly simple, let's say, safeguards, like you have to change your password every 30 days. We found that people have been using the same password like welcome123 for I don't know how many years. The second point which we also found was that the most vocal objections to any kind of security, let's say, new kind of infrastructure, new kind of systems coming in, were the senior people. And so that's why I'm saying it is the culture which needs to be changed in conjunction with any kind of software, hardware changes that you might be implementing.
So it seems like cybersecurity is rapidly infiltrating not just our professional lives, but our personal lives. And this question to the entire panel is, as you look to the future of cybersecurity, what is fueling your fears and where do you derive comfort?
If you look in the future, you basically don't know what is going to happen with the industry. It's oscillating from the mainframes and IBM to personal computers, and then nobody wants to do the business with the personal computers anymore because everybody's stealing data from each other. So then they come out now with the clouds, but now clouds are problematic because we are storing all our data in some servers that we don't know. Problem of privacy will stay. The problem of data theft and getting the data out of the systems will stay. We will have to live with leaked data because leaking data actually initiates this pulsation in the industry.
And the cost of securing the enterprise is disproportionately higher than cost of attacking. Attacker with very little resources can attack, and the enterprise with a lot of spending can get attacked. So we need to be cognizant of that.
Cyber is already the fifth domain. So after land, air, water, space, the fifth frontier will be cyber. And most wars probably will happen out there on the IoT space, on the operational technologies, the big power plants, the waste treatment plants, the electricity grids. So that is a big risk out there. And what are the technologies which will be like blockchain, which will be there in place to help us mitigate and prevent these? And that's why students who are in this career have a very bright future.
You'll be surprised to know that Maharashtra is the only state where under the leadership of our Chief Minister, we have set up a 1,000 crore cybersecurity project. And there are 4 verticals to it: forensics and investigation, there is big data analytics, there is cyber threat intelligence, and there is awareness and training. And there was earlier a reluctance from the corporates. They never used to approach us. But now I see almost 4 major breaches being reported to us every week, and they are really major. The main concern which corporates have is about confidentiality because in police, whenever you register an FIR, it becomes a public document. But Maharashtra Cyber, my organization, is out of the purview of RTI. So corporates can be assured about the confidentiality of the investigations. We will be, in the next 2 to 3 years, making a robust cybersecurity framework for the state. At the center also, a lot of steps are being taken. There is a National Critical Infrastructure Protection Agency, as well as CERT is upgrading itself. We are much more open to collaboration with industry and with researchers. Researchers are what people call hackers. We call them researchers.
Okay, so I think it is a given that there will be cyber theft, there will be crimes which will continue. The only thing that we need to do is maybe develop a better kind of artificial intelligence systems. Even if you can't predict, at least we should have some kind of capability at a national level to detect that where crimes have taken place. And if you see on the dark net, there are a lot of sales which happen of data and other things. I'm sure that is something that we can monitor and at least track as to where thefts have happened. But some kind of considered effort at a national level is required so that not only do we build up the organizations or the capabilities of each individual organization and handle such pressures, but at a governmental level, we can also help catch crimes, if not before, at least soon after.
Personal and a professional front, it's definitely not too good scenario in terms of cyber crime and cyber warfare. But at the same time, having said it, we have got organizations which are also enabling themselves. Organizations like Kaspersky, which are enabling themselves and making sure that the problems which are there in the cyber warfare don't get too grim. So yes, there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel.
We had recently delivered a secured software application for one of the elite force of India. We put encryption into it, so they said, can someone crack this encryption? I said, yes, this encryption can be cracked. He said, why you have configured it then? I said, see, you asked me, can it be cracked? I said, yes, it can be cracked. Now you have to ask me again how it can be cracked and how long it will take. Then I'll reply you that it requires 1 billion computer system and 1 million year to crack it. So security, as I said you, that security should be configured in a proper manner. That is important. Parents need to take care that they should start teaching right from the beginning, from class 1 to their children about security threats available in the market. So information security should be now moreover in your DNA.
Well, thank you to all of our panelists for such a fascinating overview of cybersecurity from not just the technical angle and the financial angle, but the psychological angle. We look forward to you shaping the future of cybersecurity. Thank you so much.
Partnered by Times Influence.